My name is Mark McGrath. I'm part of the pastoral team here at the church. And it's my privilege to get an opportunity to speak with you this morning. Churches are living things, or they're supposed to be. I know there are some that are much deader than others, perhaps. But churches are supposed to be living things, groups of people who get together because they want to, because they're looking in a certain direction, and it makes sense to do that together. Montclair Community Church is no exception. We're not claiming that we are anything more, nor are we complaining that we are anything less than a group of people that really believes that God is interested in making a difference in the lives of other people. And we believe that primarily because He is making a difference in our lives. And most of us are people. There may be one or two that don't qualify, but most of us are people, and God is making a difference in our lives, and we like the difference that He makes. Right? Lee was accurately talking about how it is possible to live our lives week in and week out and miss each other, right? Depending on the season of life you are in, you could wake up on Thursday night or come home on Thursday night from Thursday. Have I seen you all week? It's possible. We could be so busy running to soccer practices and ballet and all these other endeavors that we are involved with that we don't even actually have an opportunity to talk. And then when we do, we find it much more important to catch up on some social media. I read that in a book. I have a post about that. But God is asking us at Montclair. He's offering us an opportunity to pursue a life worth living. That sounds so cliche-ish, right? Now, I'm not a big fan of cliches. But I also know that it's possible to live a life that's not worth living, or at least not worth bragging about. And so God, like He does for each church, He gives us a particular part to play in His orchestrated history. And so as we have responded to that as a congregation of people, we've developed language that helps us understand that. And we've talked about the difference between eating a meal at a nice restaurant where somebody comes and you get your romantic getaway, and there's maybe candlelight, and you sit down at the table in a corner by yourselves, spouses together, and lights are low, and the waiter comes up and offers you something. This is New Jersey, so it's likely to be with gum chewing. Yeah, what do you want? But, it's kind of a nice thing, and we get served, and it's a good meal, and it's a great opportunity to talk and to share, and then we get back to life. That's one kind of environment. And in many ways, Montclair Community Church was a little bit like that, right? We had really good teaching, which was like well-prepared food, and Pastor Ed Banghart had been here as our pastor for many, many years, and his teaching ministry is probably amongst, in my opinion now, the best in the country. But many of you realize he has suffered from Parkinson's disease, and his strength physically has decreased. And so at the end of this year, we're allowing him to take some time to himself and enjoy his wife and his kids, and while we're still respecting and honoring his role among us, we're letting him know he doesn't have to take an active role in pastoring us. We're going to still support him, and he's going to live in the parsonage that we have, and we're going to honor and bless him, but he's now moving out. And so that has left us without, in many ways, a really grand chef, right? And so what the restaurant analogy is lesser to us today than it was 5 years ago when we had a master chef. I remember I had a friend who's unfortunately not living anymore, but he was a world-class chef, won all kinds of awards, and he invited us to his restaurant and treated us like royalty. It was really cool, and I ate food I never ate before in my life, and it was his creation. It was awesome. If I went home with the same piece of meat and tried to make that, it wouldn't be anything like it, right? You can work with the same ingredients but not have the same talent. And so we are, in a sense, working with the same ingredients. We have the Word of God and we have the truth of the Scriptures in our life together, but Ed's talent is pretty amazing. And we don't have that. And so as we prayed about what does that mean for us as a congregation, we recognized that in God's perfect timing, not only was the shift in Pastor Ed's physical situation evolving and morphing, so was God's call to us. And so we embrace the analogy of not just being a fine restaurant, but actually being called to take that food to the world around us. And so we use the language of going from restaurant to food truck. Right? I live right outside of Rutgers, New Brunswick, which is famous for its food truck environment. And my daughter and son-in-law are season ticket holders at the Rutgers game, and they went and watched Buffalo beat the snot out of Rutgers yesterday. But for home football games, they bring all of the food trucks there. It's a food truck heaven. And for a person of my age, just one bite of any given food truck sandwich, and it should come with a ride to the hospital. We'll give you this sandwich and free a token for an ambulance ride, because I would need it. But when you're younger, you just eat all that junk and it's fine. And so God's calling us, asking us, inviting us, giving us the opportunity, giving you. And if you're visiting here with us, you say, quick, let me out of here. But he's giving us the opportunity to go from fine dining to food truck, where the quality of food is different, but the availability of the food is very different. And so we've embraced, as we heard at the very beginning, this is a cooking class, we've embraced 3 strategies. We want to learn how to eat, because that's how we feed ourselves. We need to learn how to be good at cooking. That is, how do we not only create the food for ourselves, but also for others to eat it. And then we also need to learn how to serve. That is, how to give that well to the community around us. And so we're thinking in terms of how do we eat, how do we cook, how do we serve. And so we're on this journey as a congregation, and it's an important journey. It's a journey that We're in the early stages of learning. We're not like just turning the last corner. We're just beginning. And so we're trying to learn as a congregation how we can do this, how we develop, how do we grow, the ability to nourish our own souls and our own families and our own friendships and our own lives on the truth of the Word of God and how God works in our hearts to transform us, to being able to figure out how do we duplicate that, how do we prepare that for ourselves, and then how do we invite friends to share with us in that, and how do we cook, and some of us are better at it than others, and then also as we learning that, how do we take what we have, what God has given us, and serve it to our communities? And we're trying to learn to do that. You see in your bulletin this week, there's a reference to what some of us from the church, our worship pastor, who is now has sort of focused his attention on starting another church in New York. But recently he went with us on our behalf to the Congo, where he was ministering. He and his wife, Larry and Marissa, were there ministering. And that's a way we get to serve our community. And it's serving. Larry and Marissa have been good eaters and good cookers and good servers in worship. Now they're serving beyond our borders. And if you read in your bulletin, the pastors and the churches there in the Congo are saying, we need regular visits. We would love to partner with you. How can we receive your teaching? And we want to be able to say, how do we receive yours? Because they have things to offer us. We have things to offer them. How do we partner together? That's being good servants. And so our congregation is moving, and we're learning different things. And in the few minutes that I have left with you here this morning, I want to focus on one reality. I want to be serious with you. Do we have the notes, my slides? There it is. I want to talk to you about living wholehearted in a broken-hearted world. Living wholehearted in a broken-hearted world. This is really, I'm focusing in on that interspace between eating and cooking. Okay? So where does this message fit? It's somewhere between feeding your own soul and learning how to prepare it for yourself and for others. Somewhere in that early spot. This is not yet serving, but it's helping us create food to serve. Now, in our American culture, the idea of being brokenhearted is rather emotionally driven. But we sang a whole bunch of songs this morning with the word hearts in them, and not a single one of those songs used the word heart like it meant feelings. I open my heart to you. It doesn't mean I open my feelings to you. I give you my heart doesn't mean I give you my feelings. But it's funny, we use the word heart to mean so much more than feelings, except when it comes to being brokenhearted. Then when we talk about being brokenhearted, we make the word heart mean feelings. I feel really sad. You hurt me. You broke something. I had all these feelings and you squished them. But in every other arena where we tend to use the word heart, it doesn't mean feelings. It means me. It means myself, my being, my dreams, my hopes, who I am, what I want to be. It means so much more than feelings, except when we talk about it being broken. And then we cheapen it. We cheapen the word to make it mean hurt feelings. If you have been brokenhearted, and you have, you know it's not hurt feelings. But every other time we use that word in our culture even, it means so much more than feelings. It means my whole self. It means who I am and what I long for, what I want, deep want. Next slide. Can we do that? Yeah. What does it mean to be brokenhearted? What does that actually mean? It doesn't mean to have sad feelings. It means to be broken inside. It means to be crushed. When Isaiah uses the word in Isaiah 61:1 that Jesus is prophesied there as coming to bind up the brokenhearted, when that word brokenhearted is translated in Luke chapter 4 to a Greek word, they use the word downtrodden. Right? Because brokenhearted isn't sad feelings. It's myself, my inner being has been crushed. It's not whole anymore. It's broken. We live in a broken-hearted world. Please allow me just a few moments, and I don't mean to be too probing, but there are so many ways we get crushed inwardly. Some of them are easy to see, some of them are not so easy to see. Right now in the news, we talk about the political implications of sexual aggression. Whether the story is true or not, the subject matter is true. That sexually aggressive behaviors break people. That's why we recognize when someone is a rape victim that their person has been broken. It's not a question of sex act. It's person destroying. Traumas. Sometimes as young as in utero. Sometimes as old as seniors. We experience traumas that crush our personhood. If you, again, please be patient with me. If you've given your body sexually to someone without yielding your whole heart, and that person withdraws from that relationship, a part of you is crushed with that. Because we were never intended to separate our hearts from our bodies. And if you say, well, I can give my body and it doesn't mean my heart, that's proof I'm right, not wrong. You weren't created to have a body and different from your heart. When you give your body, it's supposed to be the way you say, I've given you all who I am. I have given you my heart. Now you have my body too. And when we give our bodies without our hearts, we end up brokenhearted. Abuse of any kind breaks people down. Trauma breaks people down. Loss of loved ones breaks people down. We live in a broken-hearted world. We give ourselves to a business that we think is going to accomplish everything we've ever dreamt of, and it all goes sour and it fails, and we are broken inside. Broken-hearted is the standard condition of every human being. You know, we think of ourselves different ways, but if you break a bowl, you drop a ceramic bowl, it doesn't just chip, right? It just shatters. dozens and dozens, sometimes hundreds of pieces. And you sweep them all up, and if you ever come and visit me in my home, you'll see that we have a series of, my wife is a plate aficionado, right? She loves plates and cups and dishes and bowls. They're coming out the wazoo. And some of them, each one of them is either just loved because it's pretty or loved because it means something. This is my mother's or her grandmother's, or an uncle gave this to us at our wedding. And when it breaks, my wife sits there with a pair of tweezers and Gorilla Glue. Right? And I come home and I see the newspaper spread out on the table, and combination of hot glue gun, glue, and Gorilla Glue, and pieces everywhere, and they're sort of being fitted together. And we have so many plates and bowls with 39 of the 40 pieces included. Right? One little piece. Yeah, so it won't hold water, but my grandmother gave me this. I'm unfortunately classic in my maleness. Check it out. No, we have them. And this morning, last night as we were getting ready to go to bed, we found a piece of something, and it drove my wife crazy. She could hardly go to bed at night. Where did this come from? Where did this come from? Like, throw it out. No. We could use it. Literally, last night we found one on the floor, a piece of white ceramic. And we're going crazy instead of going to bed trying to find, what did this come from? Who gives a rip? We're in a process of putting pieces together. Because we're not just broken, we're shattered in some ways. Here's how you know you're being broken, you're operating from brokenness. If you get defensive, nobody here ever does. If you find yourself getting defensive, so you start reacting, so where'd that come from? Yeah, something's broken. If you find yourself withdrawing, like, I don't want to get involved in this conversation. Find yourself withdrawing from difficulties or struggles. I'm out of here. If you are my default social engagement, which passive aggressive, so you can say yes as nicely as you can possibly live no. When you're doing that, it's a proof that something is broken. You got a bag of bowl pieces in your hand. You might be sleeping in the same bed with that same person, but you've never really been able to give yourself wholeheartedly to this relationship because you just are reserving yourself. We're broken. We're crushed. Faint memories or songs just come welling back in, and then you experience something, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a spiral and you don't know where it came from. You're brokenhearted. God wants to be even better than my wife with tweezers and Gorilla Glue. His intent for you and I is to put us back together, to heal, so that we can give our whole selves. I want to give my whole self to parenting, whole self to my wife, whole self to my work, whole self. I want to do what I do wholeheartedly. Whole self to my friendships. I don't always, but that's my heart's desire. And that's what Jesus does with our bag of bowl parts. So I want to quickly just walk you through. I'm just going to fly by these. There are 4 stages in this process of becoming whole. And I want to say to you clearly, as I know how to, that it doesn't happen on a Tuesday afternoon. I am certain, broken in ways I don't know yet. But I am equally certain that I will find them out, or literally they will find me out. And when they find me, I have a couple of choices to make. And so do you. So quickly, let's run through those 4 stages. Quickly, the next slide first. Stage 1. All right? This is A, B, C, D. You know, I usually have points that start with the same letter. I don't. So now it's alphabetical, A, B, C, D. There are 4 pieces to these, 4 stages through becoming re-bold. Right? The first one is to address it. When that comes up in your life, you have to face it. What we see, you don't see me as a shattered bowl. You see me as a bowl, because that's how God made me. I don't see you as a shattered bowl. I see you as a bowl. That's how God made you. So who we are to others isn't always who we are. Who I am in public isn't always who I am in my heart. And God wants, when you see it in yourself, don't excuse it, address it. Don't make excuses for it. Don't explain it away. Don't rationalize it. Don't be deceived and think you'll get over it. Address it. See yourself. Recently, I was in a conversation with a group of people, and I suddenly found myself feeling defensive. I'm thinking, that's interesting. Why am I being defensive? Clearly something's not right. So I began to address it. When you see it, call the foul on yourself. Because if you don't, it just keeps repeating. It doesn't get better with time, even if you get more clever at hiding it. It doesn't go away. The moment you wake up to realize that you're not giving yourself to your children wholeheartedly, that you're afraid of something, or you're not giving yourself to your partner wholeheartedly because you're holding something back out of fear, or you're not even trusting God with everything because of something that happened in the past and you're just a little reluctant. The minute you find that true, the minute you see it, that's when you face it. When I found myself reacting defensively, I don't even really yet even know what's behind it. I just say, God, I'm acting defensively. Something's broken. I'm not made to be defensive. I'm made to be wholehearted. When I'm defensive, I think I have something to protect. Show me. Open the door. Address it. Here I am. Father. Face me. Second step in this process. That's number 1, A. Number 2, B. That's until you address it, it can't be bound. Once we see it, once we call it out, once we name, even if we don't know the full extent of it, now we can come into the Father and say, Father, you sent Jesus to bind up my heart. I'm asking you to bind this. My wife had surgery on her foot a little while ago, a couple months ago now, and there's all kinds of wraps around her foot and boots on her feet, and it's bound, it's wrapped, it's wasn't splinted because of the position, but it's wrapped up so that it heals. what God does for us, what the Father will do for you when you bring your crushed self to him, is he will bind it to protect it, to make sure that the healing takes place. Sometimes that healing is instantaneous, and sometimes that healing is process-oriented. It really doesn't matter. You're not more spiritual if it's an event or less spiritual if it's a process, or vice versa, depending on your tradition. But sometimes God just steps in and fixes something, and sometimes he just wraps it up and says, let's stay off this for 6 weeks. It's healing. But that's stage 2. But you can't have it bound if you aren't opening it up. Address it. Bind it. Third one, please. Collect it. This is, I think, where often we miss the point. The psalmist prayed, unite my heart to fear your name. Unite my heart. Meaning my heart is scattered all over the place. My heart's in 100 different places. Please bring it all back together for me. Bring it all back. I want my heart back. I want my heart back. I want my life back. I want me back. Jesus, come collect it. Unite my heart to fear you. Because I can't give what isn't in my possession. I want to give my heart. I want to give my heart to all of the people who I'm called to give my heart to in all of the different levels of relationship. I want to give my heart to the things I'm called to in all the different levels of priority. I want to give my heart, but I can't give what I don't have. If my heart's not here, I can't give it. I can address it. I can ask him to bind it, but then I need God to help me collect it. Unite my heart again, God. Unite me. Bring me back together so that I can give it. So that I can give it. And the last thing, number 4, defend it. Proverbs 4 says, guard your heart or watch over your heart, for out of it flow all of the springs of life. Now, in this particular passage, please excuse me, that is a very strong reference to things sexual. Springs of life are Hebrew language for protect your sexualness. We live and we work with people, and you can spend more time with people at work than the people in your own bed. And it's possible that over time, and most affairs are reportedly not about sex, they're about relationship. They're about oneness, they're about closeness. You can let your heart go if you don't watch over it. Where's my heart going? How do I find myself wanting to spend more time with this person than is appropriate for the job I'm doing? Why is that, God? Why do I value their opinion more than anyone else's? That is part of the way you protect your heart. We are in churches these days riddled with leaders and key people whose hearts have gone astray and ended up with someone other than their spouses. Even if you don't get in the same bed with them, you have the same heart with them, it's just as damaging. Guard your heart, please. Watch it. Watch it. There are things that you are designed to have received only from your spouse if you are married. Don't let anyone else be that to you. You've stopped guarding your heart there. Defend your heart. Watch over it carefully. Listen, folks, this is dead serious. This isn't religious. This isn't, throw a Christian Band-Aid on a life problem. This isn't just say you trust God and hope it goes away. God is calling us to live in reality, to live in the depth of truth, to live in the depth of who we are, so that our whole self is together. Now listen, this morning as we were talking about it in discussion, Lila shared a scripture in this conversation that I love. In 2 Corinthians, Paul talks about, with the same comfort you received, turn around and comfort others. That's the point of all of this. That when we are out in the world, and I know one thing, if I sit down with a conversation with anybody, anywhere, there's a real high potential for brokenness. When people are broken, they don't need information. They don't need, this is really bad, they don't need tweezers and Gorilla Glue. They need somebody else who holds tweezers and Gorilla Glue. You don't say to the plate, here, fix that. You know if you've been broken, you want to hide. You don't want other people to know about it. You try to protect yourself. You know that. You know that's true of everyone else that you see. So what do we want to do? We just want to be with the Father and say, Father, I'm not judging anybody. I, too, have received comfort. It's the hands of you, my Father, and my friends with you who have put and helped me find tweezers and Gorilla Glue. We need each other. We're going to start a new level of small groups in just a few weeks. We're jokingly calling them cooking classes because it's as you build. Listen carefully. I can't trust you. I'm being as dead honest as I know how to be. I won't trust you with my broken self unless I have confidence in what you will do with me when I am broken in front of you. Huh? I'm not an idiot. I'm from New Jersey. Get your freaking hands off that. I'm not going to trust you. I need to have relational confidence before I let you into what's painful. Community groups are doing the necessary dues, paying the necessary dues to build relationships so that when it comes time, when it's appropriate, when I come to that season of life where my brokenness is really in front of me and I'm crying out to God and I can't seem to get over it, I need to bring in my friends. Help me. Stand with me. I don't need 6 lessons in gluing ceramics. I just need someone who will share with me the comfort they received. Not the comfort they read about. I have spent more time in 40 years of ministry, sometimes sharing comfort I read about rather than comfort I received. I have vowed never to do that again. You don't need the comfort I read about. You need the comfort I received. Will you be that church with us? Will you take those moves with us? That's who we are. We're a bunch of cracked bowls that have the faint memory of boldness and a strong desire to have the Father who loves us, who sent Jesus into the world, to exactly bind our broken boldness. There is no shame in brokenness. It is your room key to this dwelling we live in. You can't get in this group, I'm sorry, without a pass key that says, been broken, got the t-shirt. See the crack? And then because you have received that comfort, you're qualified to share it. That's Montclair Community Church. We're living wholehearted in a brokenhearted world. Here's what I'd like to do with you this morning, if you don't mind. If in this conversation you have come face to face with something about yourself, will you be willing to open it up? I'm not interested in the details. I'm really not. Those are between you and your Father. But if you want to open the door to start the healing process, or to continue the healing process, or to acknowledge that you're just seeing it and you don't even have a name for it yet, that's okay. I'd like you to stand, right, in a minute. Literally just stand. You don't have to say anything. But if you would like God to get into an area of your life that you realize you're broken, we're not asking you for the what or the how or the why. That's not anybody's business but yours. But if you would like that, I'd like to pray with you tonight. So while our musicians are coming forward, if you would just stand where you are, say, that's me, Pastor. Please pray for me. Mark, can we sing Come to the Altar? All right. Here's what I'd like you to do. Thank you. Thank you. I'm honored that you would respond publicly. It's time. It's time to be healed. It's time to get bound up. It's time to get collected. The rest of you can now stand. Let's sing that first chorus through that, and then I'm going to pray. So just be here right now, and as we get ready to sing one part of the song, I'm going to ask that God would meet with us. Father, will you come right now? Hear and see and touch the hearts that are here before you now. Please.